Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're going to continue on the trade tab. Now, this is one that I use a lot. This is the futures trader. Normally, though, I keep it detached on a separate screen, but the idea here is if you're working on a laptop or something like that, you've only got one screen, and you want to keep referring back to the four horses, you don't want to have to keep changing your regular chart to be able to look at it. So what you want to do is go to the trade tab and then click on futures trader. This would be, for an example, your regular chart, or you're on the flex grid or something like that. From the charts, you go to trade, and then you choose futures trader. This is the default thinkorswim futures trader. What we want to do is get rid of all of this, put it into a 4-grid setup, and then we want to start loading our 4 indexes in here. For me, I typically have the ES in the upper left, the RTY in the lower left, the NASDAQ in the upper right, and the Dow in the lower right. You can put these where you want, or you can add more to it, but this is my normal standard configurations. I use them in that location no matter what broker I'm on. Now that we've done that, we need to get rid of the trader, add chart, get rid of the big buttons. So trader, chart, big buttons, do that on all 4. Now we've got 4 grids, and this is the time that you want to think about how much space you have on your screen. Notice that I have a sliding bar on the bottom here. This is telling me that I'm showing only half of what I'm asking for, and thinkorswim is going through a lot of effort for nothing. So let's look at the time frame. I've got 20 days on a 15-minute chart. I don't need 20 days. I want to go in and adjust the time frame. I'm going to try 10 days. I still have a little bit of a slider, but not that bad. I don't think it would be worth going in and adjusting it further, but it certainly wouldn't hurt if we want to maximize it just a little bit more. All right, so we could go in, see if it offers us something like a 9-day. 5 is going to be too short, I think. So if my choice is between 5 and 10, I'm going to keep the 10 days. All right, so we could get into custom and kind of mess around with that, but I really don't think we need to. This is more than enough. I do run my 4-grid on a 15-minute. If you're not comfortable with that, maybe you want to think about setting it up on a different time frame. I don't use any indicators on this. I often leave it blank, and then I use drawing tools, and that's because of the way that I use the 4-horse. I tend to go in and mark out pivot points or lines of structure very near, very short-term areas of exhaustion, and I deal with that on an intraday basis, and then I just wipe it all off again at the end of the day. So I don't want a bunch of tools or anything else distracting me from the price action. I don't want any indicators that just like that. And that's the setup is going to be on all 4. So all I got to do is just jump over and knock every one of these down to a 10-day, and I'm good to go. This is, of course, where you could go in and choose to really pimp this thing out. The idea being that when you're done, you want to save this so that you can always find it again. thinkorswim has a really bad habit of knocking things down to their default, and when that happens, you're going to lose all of your saved work. You really don't want that to happen. Plus, if you change computers or do something else, when you log in, all of your saved stuff is there. You can bring it right back up, right? So that's really a great time saver. Now, if you do have multiple screens and you like to have this detached, the thing to do is to go up into the upper right corner, click the 3-line, click detach, and then just grab that and set it on a different screen. At this point, you still have the original 4. If you're trading at night, you might think about adding another 2, so 2 more bars. At nighttime, you could put something in like the bonds, and you could put in the VIX futures. And again, we want to get rid of the trade, add chart, get rid of DB, get rid of trade, add chart, and DB. From there, knock the time frame down to the same as all the others. And now I've got a little more perspective. I got the bonds and the VIX, and this is helpful at night when you don't have any market breadth studies like tick, trend, AD, ADS-PD, so that you've got just one more thing to look at. Remember that when it comes to money in the marketplace, bonds has more money traveling through it than anything else. All right, so outside of Forex itself, when it comes to trading in the futures market, nothing can compare with bonds. It's the greatest money flow. So keeping an eye on what's going on in the bonds is really helpful. And of course, there's been a lot of research and work done on that. Even Tastyworks did a couple of videos correlating the bonds with the S&P marketplace. There are times when they're highly correlated and they run together, and then there are years where they don't, where they're completely inverse of each other. So don't get comfortable with the idea that they're inverse markets. They're only inverse markets right now. This, of course, would be something else that you want to save because we did make big changes. So we would want to go in and save grid as. We want to name this with the same convection of all the others. So for me, that's going to be using the percentage in the front. I can scroll down here. I'm sure I've got previous versions already saved. Somewhere. Futures Trader. So just like that, you can get that saved. Now from here, you could decide, well, you want one for the daytime with some more perspective, just like you built one for the nighttime with more perspective. If you've got that on your mind, something to think about is loading up tick and ADS-PD. Now notice, of course, that since we do have 6 grids, we have a slider that is showing that we're wasting a lot of space. So we could go in now and set this to a 5-day 15-minute. That gets rid of the slider. 5-day 15-minute. The tick and the ADS-PD does not run at night. So it's only going to be a daytime perspective. You're going to want to set that on 1 minute for the ADS-PD and 1 minute for the New York Stock Exchange. First, let me save the changes that I just made. I guess I should have done these too. And that way, I don't have to worry about making those changes later on. So now that those are saved, $ ADSPD and $ tick. We have to make some structural changes here. 1 day, 1 minute on both of those. And now they are good to go. We'd save that, of course. And now I would have those. And the last thing would be to turn off the sidebar just to get a little more space, right? And if you make that change, then you want to go in and save that change so that you don't have to turn it off every single time you come back here again. So that's it, guys. Now you know how to build your 4-horse. And of course, you can, the sky's the limit. You could load it up with all kinds. This is exactly how I look at things like AMD, or when I'm looking at banks, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. Every time I want to go look at a market, I look at the peers of that market as well, searching for an opportunity from all of them. Right? Whatever gets my attention. If I'm looking at Boeing, I'm looking at Lockheed Martin. If I'm looking at Kroger's, then I'm looking at Walmart. Right? Anything that I can do to gain more perspective. That's it, guys. I appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing you at the next video.